Hello, everyone. I'm Andy,
And I'm Mark.
and this is Strange Stuff Podcast. Welcome. So here we are again.
Indeed, and I was trying to figure out which sector of the medical community that you would be targeting today, and I can see I'm not too far from the mark with the demon and witch doctor.
Well, I think I made a great case for demons and witches last week.
Oh dear. What a crazy week it's been.
Well, especially for me.
Oh yes, of course. So, well, dare I ask, are you one of the 1700?
Yes.
Oh really? Well done. Good.
Yeah. What do you mean, well done?
Well, you've got a job.
No, they kept 900 and got rid of 1700.
No, that's not what was reported.
Oh, they've kept 900 people and they got rid of, in fact, probably 2,000.
So you don't have a job?
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's literally completely the opposite of what they said in all of the reports on Monday. They were keeping... We were so pleased because we're keeping 1,700 people.
Lies.
That's just ridiculous.
My department has gone down to 4 people.
All right.
So, I mean, they got rid of all the engineers except one. They got rid of everybody in the assembly area except 2. I mean, it's just madness. Everyone's had to go to day shift now because there's not enough people for 2 shifts. But I mean, basically, I went to work on Monday on the late shift, and at 11:45, I got this generic mail that 2,000 other people got saying, you're no longer required. You don't have to come in tomorrow. Offboarding on Wednesday, but your notice will remain until the 30th of May. So you don't have to come in.
All right. I wonder if it was the press release from Northvolt that was wrong.
I wonder if maybe because there were 5 companies involved in this bankruptcy. Maybe they kept a total of 1,700 across 5 different organisations.
Well, it's interesting you say that because they also said that Northvolt employed 7,000 people.
Yeah,
it's never employed 7,000 people.
No, they're massaging figures. They're trying to make themselves look better than they are.
Even Swedish radio, 1,700 people to remain working at bankrupt Northvolt.
No.
Oh. Anyway, all right. So,
that's all over.
Yes. All right.
I'm quite happy to be part of the cull because the atmosphere in that place was fucking awful.
Well, I can imagine.
And it's even worse now. I was out for lunch with Robin on Friday. He stayed.
Yes.
He was there longer than me. Everyone who stayed was there longer than me, basically. He said it's been probably the worst week ever. They've got really very little to do. They don't know what's going to happen. My manager, the good guy, he was culled, and they kept the fucking retard. And I just... I mean, I couldn't work under this guy anyway because he's a fucking moron.
Oh, what about the Serbian princess? Did she get to stay? She'd been there longer than you, hadn't she?
No, she's gone. She's gone long after me.
Oh, was she? I thought she was there before you.
No, there was just Robin, Amanda, Victoria and Stieg, who were all original.
Right.
And everyone else was got rid of.
Oh. So it is going to feel pretty empty, because what was your department designed to employ? 20 people?
I think we were 30 at our peak, and it's gone down to 11.
Oh,
So
yeah.
quite a few loss.
I mean, what are they going to do? Are they actually going to produce batteries, or what?
They're going to focus on one line, which is producing batteries for Scania lorries.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. They just don't have the manpower to do it. It's obviously going to be a much smaller scale, and they don't have any forklift trucks anymore. So I don't know how they're moving material about the building.
What do you mean they don't have any forklift trucks?
Well, because they were all leased, and the leasing agreement expired, and they won't renew it. And also, they've got rid of most of the warehouse guys. There's only 4 people now working the warehouse.
All right. But anyway, you get, what's that? Have you been paid?
Finally got paid on Friday.
And what date was that?
The 4th?
All right. So it was like 10 days late.
Yeah. Fucking liberty.
Oh. All right. And so you've got 2 months. 2 months at full pay.
Yeah,
and then the Arcas
then I need to go on to Arcasa. But I mean, God, already I'm being hassled by Arbits for Medlingen about activity reports and job seeking. Yeah. It's like, fucking give me a fucking minute to catch my breath.
Oh.
I've got to move and everything. Oh yeah, but you must start applying for jobs. I don't even see why I should. Like, I'm paid for 2 months, so leave me alone until I'm not being paid anymore.
Do they have any suggestions as far as jobs are concerned?
Oh, listen, if you leave it to Arbits for Medlingen, they will make you looking for a job a full-time job. They have got loads of ideas, and it all involves you filling in forms, downloading apps, and fucking chasing people and hassling people. I mean, how not to get a job? Apply somewhere and then make a follow-up phone call. No. You dare phone someone, say, oh, I sent you an application yesterday, I'm just phoning to see the progress. I go, fuck off. Don't bother me, bitch. That's why we have application forms. If I wanted to talk to you, I would phone you.
Yeah.
They've got no idea. They're so fucking retarded.
Not a word we use these days, Andy, but anyway.
Well, I just did. So sue me. What are you going to get out of me? I'm unemployed.
No, you're not. Not until the 31st of May. Oh, dear. So when do you move into this flat?
The 1st of June.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And when does your car go back?
End of July. Then I'm buggered. Right, so
then you've got transport until July.
Yeah, but then I'm buggered. I'm going to be 15 miles away from here, or 15 kilometres away from here.
15 kilometres away.
And no car.
But I was thinking about it the other day. Whatever happened to your electric bike, you know, the low rider thing?
It's here, but it doesn't work. It got rained on in the monsoon we had, like not last summer, but the summer before. And it seems to have shorted out somewhere. It won't charge. It won't hold a charge. And I don't know anyone to fix it. And I took it to a fucking shop, like a JD Sports type affair, but I think it was XXL, who sell electric bikes. So I said, can you sort this out and try and fix it? And they said, oh, no, we only do mechanical repairs. So
yeah, but why would you take it to JD Sports?
Bikes.
Why didn't you take it to a bicycle shop? Yeah, but they don't. They're staffed by students.
We don't have a bicycle shop. No, we don't have a bike shop. We're a small town here.
Yeah, well, Mora's got 3.
Yeah, but Mora's
workshops.
special place.
Mm. All right, so you don't
There
because
is nowhere.
I was thinking at
There
least
is
that is.
nowhere. I asked them, and they said your best bet is to put an advert on Facebook Marketplace looking for someone.
Oh, really?
Fucking
What?
hell, man! Why not Tinder? Maybe I'll just put an advert on Tinder.
Tinder. Hoping to meet someone who
Hoping
knows
to
how
meet
to
someone where sparks will fly.
Oh God! If it did have the battery, because have you replaced the battery?
No, because the battery's like $3,500 or something. I'm not just going to chance an arm on a new battery.
Oh,
We did open up the battery and ran it through a meter just to see if it was charged and holding the charge. We can't really see a problem. We don't know what it is. Me and Robin spent a couple of hours on it.
you
Just
can't
don't
see
know.
the irony in the situation that your only actual means of transport is fucked by battery technology, which is
Yeah.
unfortunately
Well,
contributed
I do
to
have a scooter as well.
Do you?
Yeah.
I thought Hannah had taken your scooter.
Yeah, she stole my first scooter, the Segway. But then when that was stolen from her, unbeknownst to her, I ordered her a new one.
Yes.
And then she called me the next day and said, "Oh, Grandma bought me a new scooter."
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I ended up with a
I
scooter
remember.
as well.
All right. So, yeah, but 15K on a scooter, that's pushing it. 15K on a bike is nothing. That's 20 minutes.
I mean, it can be done. The range is like 70K on my scooter.
But you're not going to go shopping on a bloody scooter, are you? Whereas you could go shopping on a bike. But
No,
as
but
a matter of
in
interest,
my new place, I've got a supermarket within walking distance.
oh, I see. So it's not in the arse end of nowhere. It's like a little village outside
Yeah, it's
of
a little
Sheffield.
village, but I mean, it's close to the supermarket, but it's just not very ideal for the cats.
You mean the flat isn't ideal for the cats?
Yeah, it's just not really well placed.
Oh, I see.
No space for them to go nuts.
Was it on the ground floor, though?
Yeah, it's always on the ground floor.
Yeah,
I
but
only
I'm
ever
just-
take ground floor.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And is it fresh and modern?
It's actually fairly well appointed, but it's
Oh.
small, 55 quadrat.
Well, that's not small, just for you
It is.
and 3 cats.
Yeah, they need a room each. They're grown up. Anyway, enough of that.
Indeed. Yes. Well, it's good that you started early today because, funnily enough, I'm back on the Sunday lunch routines.
Oh, really? How's the new family doing?
Very well. Yes, I spent a couple of hours with the little one the other day on a hospital visit, and everything's.
Is it still in
fine.
hospital?
Not in hospital, no. But he had jaundice,
Yes.
which is not uncommon these days,
No.
apparently. And so he's had to go back to the hospital it was every 2 days, and now it's every 4 days, and hopefully next week will be the last visit because his values are improving steadily. So without any intervention other than good feeding, apparently the cure for jaundice, other than the disco light activity,
going on
if
the
it's
tip.
very bad, is eating a lot. That flushes out the system.
All right, so he's sucking away like a good one.
Yeah. So, but he's a sweet little fellow, and he started. I don't want to bore you, but he just started lifting his head. If you put him on his little activity mat, he's just started lifting his head.
It's too late. You've bored me. You've bored me.
He's only 3 weeks old, so he's not engaging in conversation about Trump
Not yet.
yet.
Have you got his name down for school? That's the thing.
No, in Mora, that's not an issue.
Well, you're going to send him to Eton, of course.
Oh, I see. No. In fact, I don't know whether we touched on it the other day, but there's a shortage of babies in Sweden. So a lot of the preschools and such like are closing down. Alex is in Gothenburg, and a lot of the preschools are sort of having closed or on the brink of closing due to the lack of children.
Do you know my Kia dealership in Huelefde went bankrupt last month?
No.
How does that happen? How does that even happen? I mean,
Really?
it took me.
They
I had
must
to
have
make
had a
sure
bonanza.
I had to make sure I booked my service 2 months in advance because they were so busy. How do they go bankrupt?
Bad management.
I mean, their
You know,
cars start at £250,000, for God's sake. How can you not make money in that place?
especially in Skellefteå, which must have been, just think of the number of people that came to Skellefteå and needed to buy a car.
Or have cars serviced.
Or have cars serviced. It must have been part of a group or something that went bust. Anyway, it's still not good. Where does that leave?
It leaves me going to Umeå, which is 2 hours away.
You don't have to service your car, though, do you?
I have to have a besichting.
But you can do that anywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, when I give the car back, I'm going to be in Umeå.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop it off miles away.
Have they actually told you that? That's it. Your car will now be returned to.
No,
the
you can
Kia
return it
dealership
to anywhere.
Oh, you can you?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Well, you say 2 hours. You know, I'm driving 6 hours to have my car serviced.
Yeah. I don't know. Also, we were talking about the price of dairy products last week.
88 krona for 500 grams of butter.
Yeah, I went to the supermarket yesterday to get some cat food, and I needed a bag of dry cat food. And I've been buying like Whiskers and Friskies, whatever. And it used to be 109 crowns. It's 185 crowns suddenly. Fucking explain that to me.
Trump. He gets blamed
Ukraine.
for everything.
It's the Ukraine and Trump. Between them,
cat food.
50% increase. We're having a laugh. I'm disgusted. I don't know if it's just in Skellefteå. I have to check nationwide the prices. I don't know if they're just still scamming us here because of Northvolt, or if. But how do you justify a 50% price hike?
There must be some. Maybe there's a chronic shortage of shit fish that they put in it. I don't know. Is cat food fish these days?
I don't know what's in it.
What flavour do you buy them?
I don't know. It's just a bag with Whiskers written on it or Friskies written on it. I don't cater. I just...
Yes, you do.
Cat food. There we go.
You don't. You probably spend hours wondering which one they'll prefer.
I spend hours wondering how cheap I can get away with before they turn their noses up.
Have they ever actually stopped eating it that you bought such crap? Did you buy cat food in Biltema, something like that one day?
Satan is a bit picky. She won't eat certain things. I have to be careful. And the boys, they like sauces when they have wet food.
All right.
They like
so
it
you
runny.
Put a bit of ketchup on them or something.
No, they like the runny wet stuff, not the firm in jelly wet stuff.
All right. God dear. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yes, I say complete madness going on in the world. I find it rich when Trump said we knew there was going to be a period of pain. He's not suffering any pain. He doesn't go shopping. No. See prices going up. Elon Musk doesn't give a toss about price of goods in the supermarket.
Well, he might do soon.
Yeah, you're right. He might do. Did you see what a whimpering dick that interview with Fox News? Oh, everybody's being so mean to me. The price of Tesla shares. Why are they doing it? Did you not see it? He was literally on the brink of tears because he thought everybody was being mean to him.
Oh, bless him.
The man that had just sacked tens of thousands of government workers just on a whim.
Yeah.
And he's complaining that because people have trashed the Tesla stock price. It's just bang.
And then Trump slapped a 20% tax on Europe, which
And
makes his
10
cars even less attractive.
Yeah, well,
It's only 10% in the UK, but it's 20% in the rest of Europe, I believe.
yeah, no, yes, it doesn't actually affect Teslas in Europe. It's the other way around. But
No, but
anyway,
isn't Europe reciprocating?
no, not yet. They haven't as yet. They will do. China and Europe are going to reciprocate, and I suspect that Britain will as well. Because the thing is that
Australia will not.
Australia will not. They've decided that, have they?
Yeah, apparently so. That's what Kate told me.
Oh. Well, the thing is that, all of it, because it doesn't make any economic sense. So there's only one reason he's doing it, and that is simply because he's a bully.
Yeah, of course.
He wants to flex his muscles in front of the world so that everybody bows to his wishes. And the only way to deal with a bully is to kick them in the nuts, and when they grab their balls, to smack
Kick them in the face.
Exactly. And I think that is what... what's the word? Not metaphorically. Is that metaphorically?
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking, that's what people need to do. So he needs to be stood up to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just insane. Did you actually see the chart? Did you see we've calculated, the unfair tariffs that have been imposed on by other countries? And if you actually looked at the methodology they had used, it was nothing to do with tariffs and simply trade imbalances. So what he's effectively saying is when American consumers go into Walmart and they don't buy a Milwaukee tool for 100 kroner, they buy a Chinese tool for $20 or whatever it is, that's China's fault. It's not fucking China's fault. It's the American consumer that decided the better value was China. It had absolutely nothing to do with China. The fact they want to drive German cars is because American cars are crap and German cars are quality. What's that got to do with Germany or England selling Range Rovers? It's just insane. There's just no logic. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
anyway, he's had his day. He's caused. But have you seen the thousands of people that are demonstrating against Trump in America?
No.
Thousands of them are taking to the streets saying this is madness.
Are they being gassed and beaten by the police?
No, but in fact, one of the things that caused a lot of the demonstrations is when that academic woman was arrested on the street, and luckily it was caught on a store's CCTV camera. 3 masked men.
Oh yeah, you said.
Approached this academic and just dragged her off the street in handcuffs. Masked men, and that is, it's classic mental fascist. Dragging academics off and slinging them in jail for no reason. Anyway,
textbook.
It is literally textbook. So we'll see how long he lasts with this ridiculous tariff policy, because I think the opposition is going to increase, not wane. If I was a fund manager at the moment, I would be dumping American stocks and buying European, Chinese, Canadian, anything other than America. So America stock market gets absolutely pummeled. And then you'll get the big corporates in the back room saying Trump's got to go. He needs to have a heart attack.
Yeah, or an accident with his brakes.
Exactly. When he's driving his Tesla.
Yeah.
when he sat in this Tesla.
When he's in his Cybertruck.
This is just like a computer. It's amazing. It's like a computer.
What's this flashing lighty stuff?
The first American president in the history of America to actively appear in a car advertisement for Tesla or any other brand. Anyway, so come on, because what time is it? 10 our time. Yep, I've got to get my chicken in. What is the subject? I can't remember. Remind me what we did last week.
Last week was the lobotomies.
Lobotomies. That was a bit depressing.
Yeah.
And of course, the week before was that complete bollocks about under
How
the
dare you?
pyramids.
How dare you?
You know, I was
This could
genuinely
change our
interested.
history.
I was genuinely interested and excited to do a little bit more research when we put the phone down, and of course, it's just people.
This could change our history.
Yeah, well,
Rewrite
that's what
the
I was
books.
thinking. I kept saying, "Is this for real?" Yeah, science.
Well, today I thought we'd go in for a bit of light relief.
Thank God for that.
So we're going back to the medieval times.
Oh, that's not light. It was a horrible period in time.
It was pretty bad, but we're going to Lancashire in the UK.
Lancashire, never been there. Can't see it on the map. How far north is Lancashire? It's about as far north as you can go.
Well, it's all like that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty northy.
Yeah. So
what happened in Lancashire in the medieval times?
Well, lots of things, especially around the end of the 1500s, the beginning of 1600s.
All right.
So our story today centres around the Starkey family. And
Starkey?
It began, yeah. And
Ned Stark. He was in Game of Thrones.
Yes, it wasn't Ned.
And he came from up north.
So it must have been him.
It was probably the same fellow.
So anyway, this began in February 1595. But the story overall, and we're talking late Tudor, early Stuart times, a strange tale unfolded around 7 individuals, and they became known as the Seven in Lancashire. And the infamy of the case spread throughout England, even though they had no mobile phones. And we know the details of what happened in great depth, as there were 2 contemporary accounts written by visiting clergymen, and these accounts survive up to today. So Nicholas...
when you said well-known in Lancashire, I mean...
Well-known in the entire country.
It was. Oh, that's right. It became national news.
Yeah.
What did they do?
Well,
who are they?
Nicholas and Anne Starkey lived at Cleworth Hall in Tildesley with their son John, who was 10, and their daughter Anne, who was 9.
So they loaded. The aristocracy.
They were landed. Anne was the first to start behaving oddly.
The 9-year-old.
Yes. She was taken with a dumpish and heavy countenance and certain fearful starting and pulling together of the body. So a week later, as John was setting out for school, he started to shout uncontrollably. And as time went on, he began falling into often and extreme fits.
Sounds like, what is that?
Epilepsy.
Epilepsy.
But Father Nicholas was at a loss over his children's behaviour. He consulted a Catholic priest, because you would.
God, dear, that was a bad start.
And then a doctor. But I make him right, because I would always go to a charlatan before the bigger charlatan.
I knew there was going to be a medical element to this, and you've done it within 3 minutes of starting to talk, trashing the medical establishment.
Now, unsurprisingly, Nicholas was unable to get much advice from either. About 10 weeks later, he found a chap called Edmund Hartley who did offer to help. Hartley's detractors would later describe him as a witch and a conjurer.
Oh, this is me.
Yeah. But the best description would probably be what was then known as a cunning man. Now, cunning men or women were folk healers, users of medicinal herbs and charms.
What, that's actually a term, is it? A cunning man is a healer?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. I would have gone completely the other direction.
So how is it that the word cunning now means
sly,
sort of devious and sly?
Yes. I don't know. Something to look into. But Hartley's influence seemed to calm the children, and for a year and a half, he remained in the employment of the Starkey family. That's a nice little number, isn't it? Just slip the kid a couple of Valium and get paid for a year and a half.
They didn't have Valium in those days. You had to chew on some root that
I bet you he
contained
had them
Valium.
chewing 24/7. Just shut up and chew your roots while I get paid.
Is that a Lancashire accent?
It's close. However,
when the boat comes in, when the boat comes home.
When the boat comes in.
Is it? Oh.
Yes. However, when his services seemed to be no longer required, Hartley warned that if he left the family, they would find it hard to find him again. Soon after he departed, John fell a-bleeding, and Hartley was summoned back. On his return, he stated that if the family had left it much longer, he would have been so far away that they would never have been able to reach him. Now, perhaps glad of his return and John's temporary recovery, Nicholas was persuaded by Hartley to give him a pension of 40 shillings a year, just so he could hang around.
Current day money, 40 shillings a year, that sounds like quite a lot in the late 1500s.
I would say that was probably quite a lot. You can look it up if you want.
Go for it.
Sometime later, Nicholas and Hartley went to visit Nicholas's father at Huntroyd Hall near Burnley. Nicholas became ill that night, and the next morning, Hartley proposed a remedy. He took Nicholas to a small wood near the house, and there he drew the outline of a circle on the ground, about 1.5 yards wide, with crosses in it. He told Nicholas to tread out the circle, but Nicholas, probably fearing that this was some kind of sorcery, refused.
Sorcery?
And this instance would later prove to be Hartley's undoing. Because by now, Nicholas was tiring of Hartley's services. And when Hartley demanded a home and ground to go with it, Nicholas refused, and Hartley flew into a rage. Nicholas decided he needed more help for his children and to get rid of Hartley. A physician suggested that Nicholas approach Dr. John Dee, the famous astrologer and alchemist of Elizabethan England. By this time, Dee was the warden at the Collegiate Church in Manchester. However, late on in his life, he was seeking to downplay anything from his past that smacked of heresy or unorthodox practices, whether those be religious or magical, which is much of a muchness. To Dee's mind, this was a case of demon possession, and he suggested that Nicholas hire some godly preachers. Dr. Dee...
How many shillings are there in a pound?
There were 20 shillings in a pound.
So it's £2.
£2 a year.
It's not that impressive.
Is it not?
£2 a year in 1590 is 600 quid.
Is it?
Using the Bank of England inflation calculator. That's not so exciting.
Well, actually, the price of a house back then was probably £1.35.
No.
Yeah, because back in the 1920s or 30s, you could buy a house for £600.
Well, that's true. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, carry on. So this fellow, he's avoiding, what was the Spanish, what was it, Inquisition? When was the Reformation of the churches?
What?
This fellow who didn't want any record of him being...
He wasn't avoiding the Spanish Inquisition. It was just he didn't want to be associated with any unorthodox practices.
Exactly.
So Dr. Dee sent for Edmund Harley and rebuked him for the methods that he'd employed while treating the Starkey children. And in turn, Hartley fell out with Nicholas for not having faith in him and for trying to get Dee involved. Around about the 1st of January 1597, The children went to stay with a relation and Hartley accompanied them. I don't understand why he's still around. On the way back home, they said they wanted to see Dr. D, who had requested that they visit him. Hartley refused, but they continued to insist and he relented. After they had seen D, Hartley became enraged and told them it would be better for them not to have changed an old friend for a new one. He walked before them all the way back to the house, refusing to speak further. On Tuesday...
Pretty trivial so far.
Yes, so far. On Tuesday the 4th of January, trouble started up again. John was quietly reading when something gave him such a blow on the neck that he was suddenly stricken down with a horrible squeak, saying that Satan had broken his neck, and lay tormented and pitiful for a space of 2 hours. That night, he leapt out of bed with a terrible cry that amazed all the family. Then he was tossed and tumbled a long time, was very fierce like a madman or a mad dog, snatched and bit everyone that he laid hold of with his teeth, not sparing even his mother.
This is the husband.
This is the boy.
The boy. Oh, so he's 10, 11.
Yeah, 10. 11 by now, maybe. Anne, too, began to suffer fits again, and others were now drawn into the drama. Margaret Byram, an adult relative of Mrs. Starkey, was visiting Cleworth Hall when Edmund Hartley himself began to throw a fit. She was asked to sit down behind him, hold him, and speak to him. When he recovered himself, Margaret was unable to stand back up, and she became benumbed and giddy. She fell down and could not be roused. When she came to her senses, she then nicknamed and tormented everyone present.
We've done something like this before.
Railing mostly...
Sort of like mass hysteria.
It's getting that way. Railing mostly against Hartley, and then she hit him angrily. Hartley said he feared he had harmed her and tried to comfort her, but she wouldn't be placated, and said that he had bewitched her, and that even when she closed her eyes, she could still see him. In subsequent days, she started to have fits and claimed to have been thrown by an unseen force towards the fire.
So it's obviously poisoning of some description.
It sounds like there is something in the water at this point.
Something in the well. Maybe there's a dead cat in the well that's causing all of this.
Maybe. But staying at the Starkey household at that time were 3 children that Nicholas was being paid to tutor. These were Margaret Herdman, aged 14, her sister Elizabeth, or Ellen, aged 10, and Eleanor Holland, aged 12. Now these 3, together with John and Anne, would now all have fits. They would bark and howl one after the other until they all joined in like a ring of 5 bells. After they finished howling, they fell a-tumbling, and after that were speechless, senseless, and lay as if dead. The 5 children began to expand their behavioural displays. Elizabeth displayed a miraculous ability to sew, far beyond her capability. Eleanor would call for an hourglass and would be able to tell when it needed turning each quarter of the hour without looking at it. One time, John preached, praying for the Queen and peaceable government, and exhorted those listening to uphold the gospel. After 2 hours of this, he stopped and later denied all knowledge of this behaviour.
Savant demon.
The children started to refer to their demons as their lads. All right, lads. Margaret Herdman would discuss with her lad all manner of fine clothes that she would own, such as a petticoat of the best silk, French body not of whalebone but horn, and a gown of black wrought velvet. One elaborate game involved John, Anne, Elizabeth and Eleanor gathering a different leaf from each plant in the garden Then they went from room to room, each laying down the same unique leaf in the room that their peers did, apparently without seeing what each other had selected. The children often took to being a group on their own, playing cards and dancing, only responding to each other and not to any adults in the household. More general behaviours that they tended to display were ones then commonly believed to be done by those possessed by demons, and these included being able to answer questions in Latin, which none of them had been taught, blaspheming about God and the Bible, saying filthy and unsavoury things, contorting their faces, heaving and lifting their bodies, and having bellies that were swollen.
I don't want to spoil the fun, Andy, but the title of this episode is The Seven.
Yes.
And so far we're talking about the five.
You have 5 children and 2 adults. You've got Margaret, who's the auntie, and the father has also been having fits.
All right, okay.
Now, at the end of January, Margaret, Mrs. Starkey's relative, decided to return home to her mother's house in Salford. She was accompanied on the journey by Hartley. In the 7 miles between the 2 houses, she had 10 fits. Once she was ensconced at her mother's, Hartley continued to visit her. However, he was unable to prevent her fits and stated that she was beyond his help and needed 2 or 3 more people to pray over her. One day, Matthew Palmer, Dr. D's curate, visited with Nicholas Starkey to say prayers for Margaret. Palmer asked Hartley what he did to help her, to which Hartley replied that he prayed over her. Palmer then asked him to recite the Lord's Prayer. Hartley began, but he soon stumbled over the words and was unable to get to the end of it. Palmer then suspected that Hartley was a witch, and immediately informed 2 justices of the peace about him.
When did we do the witch trials?
Oh, a long time ago.
No, but when were they?
Well, funny enough, that's the second part of this story, so we'll get to that.
Mark's doing very well today, anticipating what's coming
Well,
next.
I'm doing very well by connecting the 2 dots, actually.
Well done.
Now, one of the JPs, Edmund Hopwood, began to gather evidence against Hartley. I don't know what sort of evidence. He came to speak to the children at the Starkey household, but when he asked them to give a report about Hartley, they became speechless and fell down. When they were finally able to say something, they reported that he had stopped their mouths and would not suffer them to speak.
You know that magician who makes buses disappear and things like that in front of people's eyes? What's his name? He's a famous American illusionist who was able to be in a glass sphere hanging above the Thames for a month.
David Blaine?
David Blaine. So if you imagine in those days, if you had someone like David Blaine, doesn't involve any technology, it's literally just mind control, how they could get away with literally anything?
Yeah. But they would be burned at the stake for it.
Is that what happens to Hartley?
Really?
Hang on a second. He is a bloke, though, isn't he?
Yes.
Isn't a witch a woman?
Well, witches can be male or female. A male witch is usually a warlock.
Oh, thank you, warlock. No, that's something out of Dungeons and Dragons.
No. Warlock is a real thing.
All right.
When Jane Ashton, a 30-year-old maid of the Starkeys, was asked by Hopwood to give testimony against Hartley, she began to bark and howl. At this, one of the children remarked, "Ah, Edmund, dost thou trouble her now when she should testify against thee?" Jane was the last of the 7 to be affected and only seems to enter the account at this point. A similar pattern emerged when Hartley was brought before Margaret Byram. 5 times he stood in her presence, and each time she was cast down and struck dumb and could not speak one word against him. Whenever he was removed, she would regain her speech and make her accusations. Hartley was sent to Lancaster jail, but before he went, he was allowed to call at Cleworth Hall and gather his clothes. On seeing him, the children flew into rages and had very violent and outrageous fits. They ran at him and wanted to strike him, but were forcibly restrained.
So, do you think he was drugging them with something? Is there something that would cause you to do that? A bit of LSD or something?
It must be a fungus of some kind.
Oh, of course, a fungi. Oh.
Hartley had now become the scapegoat for the actions of the seven. However, his arrest and incarceration didn't really do anything to change the behaviour of the children. In one instance, they told Mrs. Starkey that an angel in the form of a dove had come from God, and they stated that they had to follow it to heaven through a little hole under their beds or through a wall. 4 of them, one morning, spent their time on their knees before fleeing from the family and neighbours, running from room to room and calling them devils. Simply badly behaved children. Elizabeth and Eleanor began to declare how many fits they would have and for how long, using the hourglass to time them. Meanwhile, in Salford, Margaret Byram claimed she had been visited by various demons in differing forms. She said a dwarf with half a face, long shaggy hair and black cloven feet threatened to carry her away if she prayed. A great black dog, a big black cat, and finally a big mouse all appeared one after the other, each one throwing her down to the ground, depriving her of her senses and preventing her from eating or drinking.
Sorry, what? I missed that bit. What? A giant mouse?
Yes. Hello! Hey, Goofy!
Threw her down to the ground?
Yes. And stopped her from eating and drinking.
In her mind, is this?
No. This is what happened. What?
As reported by these 2 Catholic priests.
Yeah. However, perhaps the 7 knew that the tide would soon be turning. On one occasion, Elizabeth and Eleanor did not eat for 3 days, only speaking to each other and their lads. At last, they said that their lads had allowed them to eat. One could have toast and a drink, and the other a posset of sour milk. But neither of them could keep the food down or the drink, and one of the girls remarked, "Thou naughty lad, thou makes us sick, for thou knowest the preachers will come shortly." Plans were afoot to bring in new expertise and a new approach.
You like the experts, especially when it concerns medical activities.
Oh, yes.
Or they could have been lucky lobotomies didn't exist in those days, otherwise they would have been given one.
Oh, they would have been full-frontaled by now. At the trial of Edmund Hartley, he was charged by Nicholas Starkey.
But what, charged? What?
Yeah, because
What's he
he was the scapegoat, wasn't he? Because of
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
because of
So he was actually charged.
yes,
With
witchcraft.
that's right. Yeah. Witchcraft. Sorry, I forgot that was a crime in those days.
He was charged by Nicholas Starkey of bewitching the children, and the contemporary accounts say that the jury was convinced of this. Witch.
And
Perhaps there was some reticence to condemn him, though. Some may have had their doubts because John and Anne's strange behaviour had occurred some 2 months before Nicholas had actually engaged Hartley. However, when Nicholas recounted the story of the drawing of the circle near his father's house at Huntroyd, this was enough to damn Hartley. He was convicted of witchcraft and sentenced to death.
death by burning.
Nicholas Starkey once again sought help, returning to see Dr. John Dee. And it was Dee's butler who gave him advice this time, because why not?
Butler, good as anybody. Catholic priest, Dr. Butler.
Telling him about his nephew, Thomas Darling of Burton. The boy had been possessed and successfully exorcised by a clergyman called John Darrell. Nicholas then began a letter-writing campaign to get Darrell to come to Cleworth Hall, and enlisted a reluctant Dee to also write. See, you notice the way these charlatans don't want other charlatans anywhere near them. Like Hartley didn't want Dee anywhere near him, and now Dee doesn't want this bloody Thomas Darling anywhere near. Or John Darrell Nicholas, whatever his name was, John Darrell. After receiving a number of letters, John Darrell did agree to visit the household and prevail over an exorcism. Now, John Darrell brought with him George Moore, a pastor from Cork in Derbyshire, to help with the exorcism. And they arrived on the 16th of March, 1597, just a short time after Edmund Hartley had actually been hung.
He was hung?
Yeah.
All right.
They found that John had been well for a fortnight and Anne had been okay for 4 days. They then sent for the other 3 children, who all bade them welcome. The next moment, one of them was thrown back with force, and this happened to each of them in turn, and they began having fits and were strangely and grievously tormented. The clergyman then heard Jane Ashton, the maid, howling, and, on seeing her, noted that her belly was swollen. It's probably because the master had been having his way with her. Darrell began preaching to John and Anne while Nicholas held them, both of them crying out loudly, and John was cast down on the bed with a great stomach pain, fearing his heart would burst. When the Bible was quoted, he replied, blaspheming, saying, "Bibble babble, bibble babble." Don't you bibble babble me.
I'm going to have to look that up. It probably means something in those days.
Bible babble, probably. Just like
Bibble babble.
Trash talk. Trash talk in the Bible. The next day, John Darrell, George Moore and Mr. Dickens prepared themselves to lead the prayers and the preaching. 30 neighbours gathered to support them. Pitchforks at the ready, no doubt. The 7 were laid on couches in the large parlour, and preliminary prayers were said. At 7 o'clock, Mr. Dickens began giving the first sermon. All 7 started roaring and bellowing and had to be held down. They struck themselves, pulled their own hair and cried out. Margaret Herdman kept saying, "I must be gone, I must be gone. Whether I shall go, whether I shall go, I will not die, I will not die," over and over. Later she said, I cannot tarry, I'm too hot, I'm too hot. Let me go, let me go. Is there an echo in here? She just repeated everything twice. Jane Ashton, the maid, seemed to be the worst of all, having very violent fits. Darrell and Dickens decided to work on her separately, removing her from the other 6 and leaving Moore to preach to them as they lay, by now, on the floor. It was Moore that was present at their deliverance. When Dickens returned, the 6 rose up one after the other and said they were free of their evil spirits. They leapt, danced and praised God. Moore warned them that Satan would try to re-enter them, but that they were all strong enough to resist. And by the time this happened, it was about between 5 and 6 p.m. The 6 gave accounts of what their banished demons had looked like. Margaret Byram stated that her demon had come out of her throat and had the appearance of a crow's head. Elizabeth's was a hedgehog. John's was a hunchback, and Anne's a foul, ugly man with a white beard and a hunch on his chest. Darrell was still working on Jane Ashton and didn't know what had happened with the other 6, and he continued to work with Jane until 4 o'clock in the morning. He later professed regret at not being present to witness the others' deliverance. That night, the children all claimed the demons had come back and set upon them. Mr. Dickens told them to pray and to resist, and with his guidance they were able to do this, and all fell asleep. The next morning, they claimed the demons had threatened them or offered gold to re-enter their bodies. By the next morning, 50 people were present, Jane had still not been delivered, Darrell, Moore and Dickens all took turns saying prayers. As George Moore's turn dragged on, he grew tired and wanted one of the others to take his place. At this point, Jane grabbed his hand and said, "Nay, for God's sake, leave me not yet. Stick to it a little longer, and you shall see he will depart shortly." The other pastors joined in, and she rose up and thanked God that the spirit had left her. So for the 7 of Lancashire, it was all now over. John Darrell and George Moore took their leave and returned to the Midlands. However, Darrell and Moore remained committed to their cause. They believed that this was a case of demon possession caused by a witch, namely Edmund Hartley. However, such accusations tossed around so lightly could have very serious consequences.
I mean, they used to talk about these things quite a lot in the old days, didn't they? Possessions and such like. No wonder religion flourished so much.
Yeah. Oh, they'd jump on anything that they could add to their bandwagon. Oh, I woke up. One of my sheep died in the field last night. Demon!
Didn't we do one about mass hysteria relating to sheep?
We did a sheep story, but we also did the mass hysteria with the dancing plague.
Oh, I remember the dancing plague. Didn't they start killing all the sheep though, because the sheep were possessed or something?
Do you remember that was a story made up by Richard?
What? No, it was prompted by Richard. He didn't actually
make it up. No, he actually wrote the whole story.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't remember that aspect of it. That's the danger of these things. You can't tell what was complete fabrication to... Where did you find this? Wikipedia or something? The Lancashire 7?
Oh, no. There's I look all over the place. It's not in Wikipedia. Or it probably is in Wikipedia. But I can't scroll up because it's too far.
This episode lasted how long? Was it like a year or two in that case?
Oh, it went on for the best part of a year.
A year. So it took that long to get the demons out.
Well, it's not over yet.
I thought what are you talking about? It's not over yet. You just said it's over.
It's over for the 7. But John Darrell returned to Nottingham and became embroiled in another exorcism case. This time it was a boy called William Summers. And when Summers accused someone who had powerful connections of being a witch, the case turned against him and his exorcist.
Oh dear.
Accusation and counter-accusation dogged the affair, with the boy being accused of pretending to be possessed, him confessing to this, recanting it, and finally accusing Darrell of coaching him. The consequences of all this meant that John Darrell and George Moore ended up on trial before a panel that included the Bishop of London and the Archbishop of Canterbury.
As what? Charged with what? Because these were the anti-witches. These are the witch curers.
These are the preachers. Nicholas Starkey's letter stating that they had performed a successful exorcism in Lancashire did little to impress those judging the pair. They were both thrown into prison where they spent almost 2 years. When they were released, they were told they couldn't talk about their work or write about it. Both of them disobeyed, and a publication war of pamphlets broke out between them and the Church of England. 5 years after their trial...
Hang on. 1590?
Yes, 1599 it must be.
Was it 1584, the Church of England, then?
Reformation, yeah, it must have been.
Or was it 1684?
No, it was 1584. It was 16th century, wasn't it?
All right, 1584. You're right. Okay, yeah, so there was a Church of England.
So 5 years after their trial in 1604, new laws were passed as a direct result of John Darrell's and George Moore's work in Lancashire and the Midlands. A law was passed banning unauthorised exorcisms and forbidding all fasts, which were commonly carried out at exorcisms. A second law made it a capital offence to conjure up spirits.
Very sensible.
Now, did you know that
No.
up until I think it was the 1990s, the same rites of exorcism have been used since the 1500s. And they upgraded them in the 1990s. It was either the 70s or the 90s.
To include, I wonder what the upgrade was.
I don't know. I don't
No
know.
silver stake.
I
They
don't
changed
know.
it to
They probably
wood.
took out some of the torture aspects. I thought, well, we can't really get away with that anymore.
Does the Catholic Church still do this exorcism malarkey?
Yeah, they do.
Do they get charged for it? Do they get paid for it?
I don't know. Maybe they do it on commission.
Have you seen Conclave yet?
Not sure.
No.
Uh,
Catholic Church knew how to make a few bob, didn't they?
yes, and they still do.
Just as a complete aside, it just jumped into my head. Did you? Oh, it's not funny at all. Did you read that Donald Trump's previous pastor, you know, he's got these lunatic evangelical nutters that always say he's come from God.
Oh, yeah.
He was done for raping a 12-year-old girl.
Oh, no surprise there.
I mean, where do these people come from?
They must meet in prison. That must be a hotbed of recruiting for Trump's political party.
Yeah, in sex offenders' wings in the prison.
Yeah.
And fraud wing. Anyway, so hang on a second. Did we get to conclusion? I got to the War of Pamphlets.
Yeah.
What was the conclusion between them and the Church of England? Did they win?
The laws that were passed.
Oh, that's right. Of course, the laws were changed.
John and Anne, the two of the children, seemed to suffer from no after effects when it was all over. They both married, and John inherited his father's estates at Cleworth, Huntroyd and Kempnuff, so he's quite well off. He also served as Sheriff of Lancashire and a Justice of the Peace, and while working as a JP, he became involved in the second Pendle witch trial. And this involved a boy called Edmund Robinson, who claimed to be a witch finder. John was made a colonel in the Civil War, in charge of protecting the Blackburn 100 area. Jane, the Starkey family's maid, left and went to live with her uncle. There, she converted to Catholicism, and George Moore wrote bitterly that she was repossessed, blaming the Catholic clergy's conjurations and magical enchantments for bringing an evil spirit into her again. What happened with the other four children is not known, or the other four of the seven. But the infamy of the case had reached London, and one of its most famous playwrights at the time, Ben Jonson, referred to the Starkey case and John Darrell in his play, The Divil is an Ass.
He was Scottish, was he?
Ben Jonson, I don't think so.
Well, why was he talking with a Scottish accent?
He wasn't, but he was writing with a Scottish accent because there was free reign on spelling in those days, and he spelt devil Divell and ass ASSE.
Do you know what bibble babble means?
It's I would imagine Bible is a word for Bible.
Actually, I'll tell you, it just means idle talk. Bibble babble. It's actually a word. Can you believe it?
Yes, I do. I do believe it.
The Seven. Not the Magnificent Seven, but the Lancashire Seven. Not the Super Seven, which I had a couple of.
Right, well, the mention of the Pendle Hill Witches is going to be the second part of this, which we're going to take next week.
They're not trying to, the Pendle Witches, they're not trying to usurp Mora from the Centre for European Witch Trials.
We'll see. We'll see. I won't do any spoilers.
We haven't done them. Have we mentioned them before?
Not the Pendle Witches, no.
Right.
We'll get into that, and it is related to this case, and we'll get into it next week because we have gone a little bit over this week.
All right.
But that was the story of the Lancashire, or the 7 of Lancashire.
The 7 of Lancashire.
Which
Yes.
I suppose for the children must have been quite a fun time, because it seems to me that they were probably faking it most of the time.
So you do an hour's worth of reasonably minded reporting, and then you just resort to, they were probably faking it and enjoyed every moment of it.
If you remember the Salem witch trials, that was started by 2 little stuck-up kids making shit up.
That's right, they did.
So you can't trust these little fuckers.
They weren't making themselves being possessed, were they?
Well, I could do all that. That's basically all they were doing.
Yeah.
And they were able to predict them and tell you how long these fits were going to last.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounds a bit suspicious to me, but, you know, I'm not an expert from the 1500s.
No, we do like experts, though, generally speaking.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes, well done, Andy.
The end of part 1. Part 2 will continue next week in Lancashire with the Pendle Hill Witches.
Maybe I should go to Pendle Hill one day. Check it out.
But you don't even know where Lancashire is, so you've got no chance of finding
north.
Pendle Hill.
It's quite narrow at the top of England. You drive north, you're almost bound to hit Lancashire, aren't you?
Probably.
They probably don't welcome people who speak Queen's English, though.
Oh, dear God. I do apologise to our Lancashire listener. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story so far. Join us again next week for part 2. Bring your witches' hats. In the meantime, have yourselves a strange week. Don't do any possessing or possessions. And if you do, try not to hurt yourselves, and don't accuse anyone of witchcraft unless they really truly are a witch. Don't forget, follow us on Facebook and just tell people about us. So have a good week. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye for now.